What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Whiskey Jedi podcast here on the channel. My name is Jake Berlin. I am the Whiskey Jedi. Thank you so much for joining me as I am back doing an episode here on the channel, just for a little fun. I know I've been MIA a little bit recently. There's been some stuff going on here, the household that has been, privy to my attention. But I'm here to do a fun episode, a much needed episode here on this channel. Because I love doing this. I really enjoy this. If you have not been with me before here on this channel, thank you so much for finding me, for being a part of this. This isn't something that I'm looking to, do as a full-time job or anything like that. I am here to talk the things I love while drinking the things I love. It's the best way I can explain it. And hopefully you guys are along for the ride with me. I've done a lot of fun episodes in the past, but this one might be one of my most anticipated, if you will. I don't know if that's really a saying for a podcast. But we're having a topic today that I cannot believe is actually happening. And it's something that I have waited a very long time to say out loud. But Hayden Christensen will be returning as Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. Either one, maybe. We'll get into it in the Ahsoka Tano live action series on Disney+. Boom. As you can see, massive Ahsoka fan. Her lightsabers are right behind me there. I just got the Mandalorian Funko Pop. Boom, there you go. Super pumped. I'm really excited to talk about this because this is something that I never, ever thought was going to actually happen. And it's happening. So we'll dive into that. And as I mentioned in the title and all my social media stuff like that, we're going to be talking about a whiskey that I have not tried yet. It's a brand new one that's kind of new to the scene a little bit. I actually heard about it pretty close to its drop, and I was lucky enough to get a bottle via my aunt. And I'll get into that little story here just a bit. It's Brothers Bond. Brothers Bond bourbon whiskey. There's the bottle. My camera right now is very strange. My garage lighting is a little different during this time of the day. So you can't see the true color of it, but it's definitely a lighter amber color, not too dark. But I believe that more than likely you probably have not heard of it. And I know Brandy mentioned it. She's very excited that I talking about something that she's never heard of before. Hello, RD as well. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, I'm excited because there's a fun connection to this one. This isn't just like your typical whiskey when it comes to a brand new one that pops up on the scene, right? This is actually from two gentlemen who are in a very, very popular TV show called The Vampire Diaries, Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley, I've never seen it. All I know is they're very popular. Ian Somerhalder was also in Lost, which is where my connection to him is. But the two of them created this whiskey together, Brothers Bond. And so we're going to break into that a little bit here in just a sec. But I want to talk a little bit about just how everything's been going on my end. All of you who probably follow me probably see all the shows that I do. Apocalypse movies, which we are doing on a weekly basis. Certain Point of View, which we are doing on a weekly basis. But Smoonite season is kind of coming to an end here very soon. So reactions, stuff like that will be slowing down here just for just a little bit. But we're very, very excited for what's happening in that world of the internet space. Myself, very exciting here. We're getting a lot of weather, a lot of rain here in Northern California, which I really enjoy, but it's also messing up my backyard. I am in the process of resodding my backyard. And so last weekend's rain, which we got a lot of it, was not the best timing. So I've been dealing with that. I've been doing a lot of rewatches of stuff, a lot of movies. I'm currently rewatching Daredevil. I just started that on Netflix. Very excited about that. I've seen each season probably twice initially when they first came out, but because it's been a little bit, I decided, you know what, let's do a rewatch. So I'm in the middle of season 1 at the moment, getting to the good stuff on that, which I'm excited for. Just saw Dune. If you guys follow Apocalypse here, or there, I should say, if you guys follow Apocalypse there, you guys saw us do our Dune review and how much I absolutely love that movie and that world. Super excited. And yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on my end, but I'm very excited to be here today because I'm talking Star Wars. As you guys can see behind me, Star Wars is life. Star Wars is everything. It doesn't run my life, but it's a big part of my life. And two specific characters that are a part of Star Wars, Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. The latter, definitely more so. have a big impact on my Star Wars fandom. You can see the poster of Ahsoka. You can see the pop figure, her lightsabers, and I just brought up the Mandalorian pop figure as well. Big fan of hers, and her master, her Sky Guy, will be appearing in her live action series, which is super cool. Don't know how, don't know why, don't know when, but it's happening, and that's all I care about. So I'm very excited. I'm gonna pour some of this because I'm celebrating. This is a great time to be an Ahsoka Tano fan and Anakin Skywalker fan, because I'm more than likely to probably flashbacks, right? That's what we're thinking. Yeah, that's what we're thinking. And then I'll get into some notes a little bit here. I'll read some bio of what this is. Kind of like the breakdown, the instruction manual, if you will, for whiskey, as it always typically does on the bottle and whatnot. I don't think it says anything about, it does something on the bottle. So I'll read that here in a sec, but I want to get through these a little bit. RD's a big Bourbon fan too. I like it, man. I like it. Thank you for joining me. Brandy, I love them in that show. How I have never heard of this is insane. Yeah, I've never seen an episode of Vampire Diaries in my life, but this popped up because, they're listening. This popped up on my Instagram one day. I'll tell this story. And I was like, oh, Brothers Bond, that sounds interesting. And I did a little research because it's a whiskey I never heard of. And I looked into it. And then I saw Summerholder and Wesley's name on it. I was like, oh, dude, that's cool. I know that they're became basically brothers, as the whiskey says, on that show. They were on that show for a very, very long time. As I mentioned, Ian was a part of Lost for a while. That's kind of where my connection to him comes from. And I was like, oh, this is something I would definitely want to try at one point. I took a screenshot of it, as I usually do with a lot of stuff on my phone, just to kind of save. And I was going to get to it eventually, but fast forward probably a couple weeks, maybe months, depending on how long it was. I get a text from my aunt, and she lives in Los Angeles. And across from her place in Studio City, she has a very, very cool, what kind of can be considered like a gas station store. It's not necessarily a liquor store. It has a lot of liquor, but it also has like a lot of food and stuff. So it's like almost like a very small version of a grocery store. But she texted, she goes, have you had this? I was like, no, can you get me one? I'll Venmo you. And because I knew it's something I had. And she goes, well, these are all signed bottles. So if you look, it's actually signed by both Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley, which is very, very cool. It was a special batch that came into the store. I was like, yes, please get me one. And she ended up getting me two. So I actually have two of them. And I'll definitely not blaze through these, but very, very cool that, they were signing a bunch of bottles, as I think it might have been their launch when it happened. Because I'm telling you, this is like brand new. This is not something that has been here for a long time. And so I'm super excited to kind of hold on to this bottle and taste this, because you always want to see what new whiskeys come up with throughout the years, right? And if bourbons differentiate from each other. I did some research, as I always do, and I've seen a lot of good reactions to it. So I'm excited to try some. I'll try some, and then we'll get into some Star Wars talk, and then I'll break it down here in the middle of the show before we kind of wrap things up. But let's go ahead and cheers a little bit to some Ahsoka Tano, Anakin Skywalker stuff happening in Star Wars. Now that's interesting. I think I say that a lot on this channel, but hold on. That's definitely a unique bourbon compared to what I have in my rack currently. And I'll talk about it here in a little bit as to why. Brothers Bond, straight bourbon whiskey. That's interesting. Okay. Anyway, Star Wars. All right. So reported last week, Deadline made this announcement on their Twitter page, their website, as it always does. Twitter is kind of the go-to for news. They announced that, and we've known for a long time that Anakin, or I just want to call him Anakin, Hayden Christensen was going to be returning to Star Wars in the Obi-Wan series. We yet to know as to how that's going to happen. My perspective is that it's more than likely going to be as Vader and as flashbacks. We'll see both of him. We'll see Clone Wars edition of Anakin, but then we'll see Darth Vader and Obi-Wan go at it one more time, which I think the Vader part of it is confirmed. I don't know if the Clone Wars version of it is. When it comes to Ahsoka, the series is set very, very far in the future compared to where Obi-Wan is. It's set at least, but more than likely a little more, at least 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And if you know Star Wars, you know that Darth Vader actually dies in Return of the Jedi. Spoiler! I'm sorry if you've never seen it. I don't know what you're doing here if you haven't seen it. So present day Ahsoka and Vader is kind of out of the question, other than, which this might very well happen, other than it being Force Ghost Anakin. Because we know that at the end of Return of the Jedi, Vader turns back to the good, and he becomes Force Ghost Anakin at the end of that film alongside Obi-Wan and Yoda. So it is very, very possible that Hayden Christensen could be returning to a present-day form of Anakin Skywalker as a Force Ghost to Ahsoka. Now, the stipulation to this is, at this moment in time in the Star Wars universe, Ahsoka isn't technically a Jedi. She renounced her Jedi name way back in the Clone Wars series, which took place between episode 2 and 3. So 20, 30 years ago, if not more. And so she's not technically a Jedi. So what does that mean as far as him showing up as a Force Ghost? Do Force Ghosts only show up to Jedi? Can they show up to anybody? Because we know at this time that the Force Ghosts we've seen, Obi-Wan shows up to Luke, Yoda shows up to Luke, and then Luke and Leia show up to Rey. And I know there's probably a couple of more in there as well that we've seen throughout time. I think Qui-Gon popped up at one time as well, if I'm not mistaken. But all of those moments, as far as live action goes, all happen to other Jedi. Does that mean it can happen to someone who actually isn't a Jedi? I'm not sure. But it almost seems like it has to be, right? Like, if you're going to have Hayden Christensen in this series, and flashbacks are going to be just as good, you know, they're going to be just as popular or just as important to present day stuff. But if you have Hayden in the Ahsoka series and most of the stories taking place in present day, it almost feels like it'd be a very bad decision for them not to do that, for them not to put a Force Ghost Anakin alongside an Ahsoka in present day, which means after Return of the Jedi. Now, jury's out on what's going to happen as far as what the creators are going to do, how the story's going to fit, how canon really works, how the ins and outs of the actual Force Ghost world really work. I'm sure we'll find out, but you can bet your bottom dollar, you can do whatever you want, that we're 100% going to see more flashbacks in this series. To what extent, I am not sure. But more than likely, we will see, just as we will with the Obi-Wan series, which Obi-Wan, I think it would be a very, very bad decision of them to not show Clone Wars flashbacks of Anakin and Obi-Wan together, because why not? I think it would also be a very bad mistake of theirs to not show Clone Wars-esque stuff between Anakin and Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series. And for those of you who may not remember or just don't know, the last words that ever happened between Ahsoka and Anakin, Ahsoka said good luck to him, and then history is written as far as him going to the bad side in the Clone Wars Season 7. It could be recreations of those scenes we saw in Season 7. It could be stuff we've never seen before. It could be recreations of stuff that we've seen in Clone Wars past. But I would put money on it, all that I have, which isn't a lot, on the fact that we're going to be seeing flashbacks. I'm very curious as to how the canon side of things works for him to be able to show up for her in present day, because she's not technically a Jedi. She's a Force user. She is not a Jedi. She renounced that name many years ago. And so I'm very curious as to how that's going to take place. Also, we have to keep in mind, when Luke showed up in Mandalorian, at that time, he had already seen his father's Force Ghost. Is there a possibility we see that guy show up in Ahsoka? I don't know. But it's a very interesting conversation to have. because of the timeline of everything and just how the story is technically going to work, because we've heard that Ahsoka is going to be tying into the story of season 3 of Mandalorian and the giant story that they're going to be telling, which is very MCU-esque, kind of ending in like one big event. So I don't know. I'm excited either way, but I'm also questioning a lot of things of like how it can work technically. Like, again, just in present day, the stuff in the past, like that's a lock. I think flashbacks are guaranteed going to happen, especially if she's meeting someone she's never met before, or is teaching something to someone and she tells a story. Boom, there's your flashback. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I do want to answer some questions here and talk about this whiskey a little bit more. So, Brandy, you ordered one. Okay, there you go. Boom. It'll be there in an hour. Holy crap, you have fast delivery service. Jesus, I love that. You gotta let me know what you think of it, because I'm actually, now that I'm sitting on it, I'm actually kind of liking it a little bit, a lot more as I kind of sit here. Adam Driver. So Adam Driver was, it's a loaded question. He was a Jedi Padawan to Luke, and then he turned bad, and he became Kylo Ren. So he was Ben Solo. Then he was Kylo Ren, and then at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, he went back to being Ben Solo, which is technically his Jedi side. So yes, but we never saw his Force Ghost, and we know that in Star Wars, the Force Ghost capability is actually only it's only being able to use by a certain few, and by a certain few, I mean 5 people in the entire Star Wars universe at this moment in time, or 6, excuse me, 6: Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin, Luke, and Leia. So those are your 6 that we know of at this moment in time. And Ben at that time just wasn't powerful enough. We've seen others pop up immediately, a la Luke and Leia, a la Anakin, and even in Yoda as well. But others we see as kind of like they have to do a timeline. Like at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Yoda says, your master has learned the way of the afterlife. That took him 2 movies to learn. So Ben Solo could very well be a Force Ghost at one point, but as far as we know right now, he's not. But he was a Jedi at one point. And didn't one show up to him, or was that just Han? I don't know. So the Han stuff was very weird. It was like a vision. Yeah, on the remnants of the the remnants of the Death Star 2 on Agent. No, was it Agent Class? No, it wasn't Agent Class. It was another planet. I'm forgetting the planet's name. In Rise of Skywalker, Ben Solo is essentially looking out to the sea, and Han walks up behind him. It's like a weird afterlife situation, a vision. It was never really explained, but he wasn't a Force Ghost. He was not a Force Ghost, but it was just like some kind of weird version of a vision. But anyway, okay, Brothers Bond. So I want to bring this back up. You can kind of see the color. Ooh, where'd that go? Right there. So that color is probably some of my favorite color as far as Star Wars, or not Star Wars, whiskey goes. That kind of medium amber color. When it's too light, that it's just going to have kind of not like a flat flavor, but there's not going to be a lot of good mixing going on with the flavor sitting in it. I don't have a lot of like very light whiskeys. A light colored whiskey is typically towards the Scotch area. Some Scotch can be darker, but a lot of Scotches can be towards the lighter area. And again, I really love Scotch. I think Scotch is actually typically is the one that I gravitate towards, but it's very just kind of straightforward. Bourbon, you can do a lot of stuff with, right? You can kind of mix a lot of things with different flavors and combinations to get your style of a bourbon. And that creates different coloring. What's up, John? Thanks for joining, man. Appreciate it, bud. And so this one is definitely towards the medium area of that coloring, which I really, really like. And again, my camera right now is not too hot, so it doesn't give out the perfect situation. Here's a little breakdown of it, though. It's an 80 proof, which is it's kind of like the average. It's not too bad. It's a good number for a whiskey. It doesn't hit you too hard, but it's definitely up there as far as alcohol content goes. And it's made from 65% corn and 22% rye, which is actually a pretty big number for a bourbon. Whiskey has rye whiskey, which is heavy on the rye, and bourbon is typically the one that has a little bit less of that. But 22% is actually a pretty big number for a rye, and it kind of balances itself out. And that's what when I tasted it earlier for the first time, the rye note was actually the one that kind of stood out to me the most. It didn't like hit you, but it was there enough to recognize it. And it's a good combination because you don't get a lot of bourbons that really meld well with that. Or mend, I don't know, one of those words. And so it's a great little combination of like, you taste it here. I'll taste it. Let me see if I can describe it again. So right off the bat, it kind of has, and I know Brandy, you're asking about some spice. The spice isn't really that heavy. It's not a heavy spice, but you can taste it enough to where it's the first thing you taste, but then it almost goes away instantly and you start tasting the sweetness of the other flavors that are happening, the caramel, the vanilla-esque flavors that are kind of in there, right? And I want to bring up, let's see, because I know they had some specific flavors that they had in this. Where'd it go? Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, so 65% corn, 20% rye. The details. Here we go. So it's a toasted grain, dried fruit, black tea, and a little spice. The finish is that. So the finish is, and this is very on point, but it's a very kind of an oaky flavor towards the end, which is what I actually really like. So it's kind of got this like small hint of a smoky oak flavor, which is like that finishing touch. So it hits you with a little bit of a spice, which is that rye coming through, and then it levels out with the sweetness, and then it kind of finishes out with the smokiness towards the end. It's a very like up and down flavor, but it really has a good combination of each of them. It's a good balance of all of these different flavors that are happening. I want to see if it says it on the back. It doesn't say it on the back. Let's see. Honoring the distilling traditions of classic American bourbon, we carefully selected a 4-grain mash bill of corn, rye, wheat, and barley, which is typical. Our spirit is skillfully cut into perfectly charred virgin white oak barrels, and it's aged for 4 years, which is a good number. That's kind of like the average number. Yeah, so it's a little spice, a little sweet, and then kind of that smoky flavor towards the end, which I actually really like. It's not all of them at once. It's like 3 layers. It's like you're peeling back an onion, right? Which a lot of bourbons kind of just all like, boom, hit you. And you either know right away whether or not you like it or not. And again, my flavor palette, like the way things hit me, might be a little different than yours. You might feel a little bit more of the sweet coming through than the rye, or the smokiness coming through than the sweetness. As far as what I'm feeling, it is kind of like that spicy kick right off the bat, but again, not too much. It's not a heavy spice, then to a sweetness, and then to a little bit of a smoky. And so I really like it. I think it's really good. I think it's a really, really good bourbon. Yes, Brandy, you're right. The 4 grains is rare. The 4 grains is rare. You're right. That's I was talking about the barrel or the years. That's my fault. I kind of mixed up the 4. There was 2 4s in there. It is rare to have the 4. So let me read it again. It's right here. Corn, rye, wheat, and barley. That's bold. It's a bold thing to do when you have those 4 together, because you don't know what you're going to get. And it takes a long time to kind of perfect the flavor that you're going to get. You won't see a lot of straight bourbons that have those 4 together. And again, I think it turned out very well, personally. I think it turned out very, very well. That wheat will bring out the sweet. Yes, you are correct. That's why I say, so like, it's like 3 levels of whiskey sitting here, where you kind of have that rye right off the bat, because it is a little bit more on the the heavy side with that 22%. Then that sweetness, but then the aging of the barrels and the oak and the smokiness comes right through the end to kind of level it all out. And so it's not something that's going to be like, I can only have like a glass of that, right? If you kick onto one of those flavors, you're going to be able to sit there and be like, okay, like I'm for this. Like I can have a glass or 2 or 3 of this. And it might catch you because I'm actually quite enjoying this right now. I really am. Not too much spice. Again, sweetness, smokiness. It's all got a really good, nice combination to it. Wesley and Summerholder, you did great. I must say. You did great. Mine is a little tiny bit watered down because of my ice cube. But again, that coloring, that combination, it's definitely a bold whiskey. But I hope everyone likes it. Oh, John, I got the Glenfiddich on the rack right now too. I did one. I did I did Glenfiddich a while ago. I don't know which one. I think I did the 12-year is what I did. I'm pretty sure the popular one. But yeah, so Brothers Bond. Brandon, you gotta let me know. You gotta let me know. Since you order it today, you'll probably have it today. You gotta let me know. Because I'm actually quite enjoying this. Not too heavy, not too light, but it's something that I can definitely sip on for a little bit and really, really enjoy. And it's not something that I also need an ice cube for. I did it today because it's a little warmer today. The colder version of the whiskeys actually I'm enjoying right now. But typically what I'll do is I'll pour a small glass coming home from work and sip on it for a while. And I can see myself doing this specific one because it's an easy pour and an easy sip. It's not one that you kind of have to like sip every 10 minutes, right? It'll catch you. It'll catch you. Cinefan, what's up? Thank you for joining me. I would think if you're connected to the Force, the way she is, that she can get a visit from a Force ghost. Yeah, I mean, that's what you would think, right? You would think that, kind of getting back to Star Wars here, you would think that anybody connected to the Force could get a, let's call it a Force call. Let's just call it a Force call. A Skype call. Force Skype is what we'll call it. A Force call. Let's say a Force call. You would think that anybody would get a Force call, but we haven't seen it yet. That's the thing. We haven't, in all the Star Wars we've gotten, Clone Wars, Rebels, all the live action stuff, we have yet to see a non-Force user or a non-Jedi get a call from a Force ghost. Everyone's been connected to the Jedi way. And I know that Luke didn't call himself a Jedi when Yoda showed up on Octo for him. But let's be real, he was a Jedi. He never really denounced himself from that way of life. And I know Rey technically never took on the code either, but she was really a Jedi going up against the dark side, which is why she saw Luke and Leia. And so at this time, everyone we've seen get a call from a Force ghost has been connected to the Jedi way in some capacity. And again, there's only been 6 Force ghosts that we know of. So I'm very interested in seeing how it works. If it were me, if I was writing this series, I'd be like, look, we just got Hayden Christensen to come back as Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. I mean, if he shows, I mean, he's not going to show up as Darth Vader technically, but we got him to come back in this role to Star Wars. I would say we need to use him in flashbacks. We need to use him in present day with the Force Ghost, because Ahsoka Tano at this time in her life, right? And it's well past this time. It's well past. But if you have seen Star Wars Rebels, you know that reaction to her finding out who Vader was, right? Being Anakin. And that fight, the last time that they ever saw each other on the home world with the Sith Temple, was brutal. It was tragic, and they both were walking in separate directions. And then we eventually saw Ahsoka again at the end of Rebels, and then fast forward a long time, she shows up in The Mandalorian, and we are now caught up with her. They've never had a rekindling. They've never been able to touch base after everything. I don't know if Ahsoka turned herself off to the Force, very much like Luke did, because Luke in Last Jedi, we know that turned himself off to the Force, and he disconnected himself, which is why he didn't know about the death of Han Solo, right? He asked Chewie, hey, where's Han? If he was connected to the Force, he would have felt Han go. Very similar to how he was feeling the pain and anger of them in The Empire Strikes Back on Cloud City. And so if Ahsoka did, in fact, turn herself off to the Force, and she's not as connected as she was once was, excuse me, I said that backwards, she would not have felt Anakin going back to the good side, right? Turning back to becoming Anakin Skywalker. She would not have felt Vader coming back to the good side. Because, and this is also, this isn't canon or anything, but there was a a meme or like a drawing going around after the reveal of Luke showing up in Mandalorian season 2 of Luke and Ahsoka meeting and Luke finding out who she was and Luke telling her he came back. My father, your master, he came back. And she was breaking down crying because at this moment, I don't think she knows. I don't think she has never been in contact with anybody for them to tell her. And also remember, Obi-Wan Kenobi was just as much of a master to her as Anakin Skywalker was. I've said this for a very long time. Anakin was technically her master as far as the Jedi Council goes and in the rule books and everything. But Obi-Wan and Anakin were both her master as far as teachings, experience, the history, the adventures. It was both Obi-Wan and Anakin. Obi-Wan, to our knowledge, has not shown up to Ahsoka as a Force ghost. That could be an indication of them saying Anakin can't show up to her because she is not a Jedi. She's not part of this. But again, it could be different. We could see something completely new. What we know of the Force and everything with these movies and Star Wars, each time we see it in a movie or a television series, it's building upon itself. It's laying bricks each time we see it, right? Each movie, we learn something more about the Force. In the first one, it's, in A New Hope, episode 4, it's about your senses and feeling the Force and trusting the Force, right? In The Empire Strikes Back, it's about lifting rocks and using it in battle, throwing things, stuff like that. In Return of the Jedi, it's about the lightsaber skills and so much more about drifting off into the Force and the Force life and everything. And that continues through all of these movies. Each time we learn something new about it. This could be that time where we do learn something new, that a Force ghost could show up to someone who is not actually a Jedi anymore. But at this moment in time, that is still out for the jury. We don't know, because we know that Obi-Wan has never contacted Ahsoka. We have not seen that yet. It could happen. But we know at this moment that it hasn't happened. So as of right now, all we know is that we're more than likely going to be seeing Anakin and Ahsoka back in flashbacks rather than Anakin and Ahsoka in present day, Force Ghost and former Padawan. But again, it is very possible. We learn something new every single time that the Force is it's continuing to reveal. Again, I said it earlier, it's like an onion. Each time we see it, they're peeling back layers. Each time someone new gets their hands on the idea of Star Wars, something new is added to it. Look at Rian Johnson. He added the idea of the Force connection, right, with Rey and Kylo. That continued into The Rise of Skywalker. It is these things with this idea of the Force and the Jedi that each creator, director, whoever it may be, they want to add their touch to it, their idea to it. Not just with the Force connection, but Rian Johnson also added the thing of Yoda bringing lightning down, being connected to the real world as a Force ghost. And yes, we saw Obi-Wan sitting on a log in the original trilogy, but never once did he bring down a physical thing like lightning into the real world as a Force ghost. So each time we are learning something new, it is possible that we could be learning something new in this series as far as a Force ghost connecting and seeing someone just as a non-Jedi and just a Force user. Because all we've seen is those Force ghosts connecting to former Jedi, or not former Jedi, but current Jedi, people who are connected to the Order, the idea of the Jedi. All right, let me get through a couple of Gio. What's up, buddy? Hayden was almost going to be in The Last Jedi, correct? There was rumors. There were rumors that he was going to show up as a Force ghost. And there were rumors that he was going to show up as a Force ghost to Luke. But ultimately, it was Yoda that showed up to Luke, which made a lot more sense just because of their connection throughout the original trilogy. As much as the father-son thing probably would have meant, on screen, as far as our visions go, our visual go, we have never seen Luke and Anakin interact with each other. So it might have been weird to see them on screen together, having never seen that before. The Yoda thing definitely made a little bit more sense than either Obi-Wan or Anakin at that point. Maddie Gunner, what's up, bud? Thank you so much for joining me. With how powerful Anakin is, I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to appear as some kind of corporal form. Yeah, I mean, look, it's possible. It is definitely possible. I've always said, and I think many people agree with me. I'm pretty sure. I think Anakin is. Let me scale that back. Before Luke force projected himself halfway across the galaxy, Anakin Skywalker, in my opinion, was the most powerful Force user to ever live. Period. There was no question about it. His skill with the Force, the ability that he was given, and how he was able to tap into that was by far the strongest we've ever seen from anyone. Until Luke was able to force project himself halfway across the galaxy. That trumps everything. There is a possibility that he could bring himself out of that Force ghost mode, if you will, and become something a little bit more physical. It would be very a la to Yoda's cane in The Last Jedi, right? Yoda bonked Luke on the head with his cane. Now, we didn't see Yoda physically touch him. It was more of his cane. It is possible that we could see a situation where Anakin becomes a little bit more physical than just a ghost and actually does interact with Ahsoka, if he does, in fact, interact with Ahsoka as a Force ghost. It is possible. He's one of the strongest Force ghosts or Force users ever. Many will still argue that he is. I lean more a little towards Luke after the events of The Last Jedi and what he was able to do, and just the ability that he had. Yeah, Jesse, you're right. Luke caught a saber. That's another thing. We've seen them catch things and use objects, but we've never actually seen them touch things, or touch people. Excuse me, because we saw Obi-Wan sit on a log. Yoda had his cane, but that ended up touching Luke, and then Luke caught the saber that Rey was throwing at the ship in flames. The next step in evolution would be for one of them to actually touch a physical form, a hug, a hand on the shoulder, whatever it may be. We have yet to see that. And as I was talking earlier about, the evolution of the Force, and each time it's a peeling back of an onion each time we see it, there is a possibility that that is its next step, right? We see them actually become into physical form. And I know that there were rumors going around in The Rise of Skywalker for the Force ghosts joining Rey to physically fight whatever she was going to be facing. That was a long running rumor. Luke, on top of some others as well, joining her in the fight, basically a Force ghost battle between good and evil, which would have been crazy. So that has been thought about for a long time. It's been thought about for a long time, and it's possible. I think that that's probably one of the next steps that we could see. Physical touch, not just with an object, but with an actual living and breathing body. And why not have it be Anakin and Ahsoka? Why not? It's one of the most powerful relationships in all of Star Wars. To me, it's probably second to what Han and Leia were, right? It's Han and Leia, and then Ahsoka and Anakin's relationship is right there. Their friendship and their connection to each other was one of the strongest we've ever seen in all of Star Wars. And to see them again in present day would be very magical, because and almost like long overdue. As much as flashbacks would mean to see them again as their young selves in the Clone Wars, which I will guarantee that they will do. Seeing them together as Ahsoka has been so experienced in the hardships she has gone through, the time she has spent, and what she knows of her former master, finding out that I went back to the good, Luke saved me. Just imagine those scenes. Imagine those scenes of them together in present day, in that timeline of them together, talking, having conversation. And again, they don't even have to be touching. They could be sitting by a fire, and Anakin can be sitting on a log, and same with Ahsoka, and they could just be talking. And it'll be one of the greatest moments in all of Star Wars, seeing them back together in live action. Hayden Christensen, Rosario Dawson, who have a history together. The two of them have a history together. They have been in movies together. They have a friendship outside of film. They are lifelong friends. And the fact that Hayden's going to be back as Anakin and Rosario is now playing the character that she was born to play in Ahsoka, it's mind-blowing. Like, I want to see that. And we're going to be getting it in flashbacks, but it's going to be different because it's going to play into the stories that we already know with the Clone Wars and and everything that we've learned throughout those stories in the past. Imagine those moments of everything we learn now, 5 years after the Return of the Jedi, after his death. He's a Force ghost. Ahsoka has been going through 20 plus years of isolation from everything she knows. She just came off of learning of someone like Grogu, the rebel stuff with Ezra and Sabine. Like, who knows what's going to be happening? It would just mean so much. It would mean so much to have them together in present day, whether it's them touching or not. And who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting what's going to be happening. Either way, Anakin's back, man. Anakin is back. Either way, if it's present or past, it's not Vader in this series. Vader's dead. He's gone. It's Anakin. We're getting Anakin again for sure. And I know we're probably going to be getting him in flashback form when it comes to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Vader's already confirmed for that. But Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano are confirmed to be together in Ahsoka series. That alone gets me pumped and excited for what this series is going to show. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's so many things that's going to be happening. Hayden's back in Star Wars, and it's one of the best things that we could ask. He got a bad rap for a very, very long time. But for me, and I know many people watching, we grew up with him as Anakin. He was part of our lives in the Star Wars universe. I'm a prequel baby. I'm original trilogy is the original trilogy to me, just as many as other people. But I'm a prequel baby. That's what I grew up on. I grew up on 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, it's awesome to see him back. And as Maddie says, the Hayden Sans it's back. It's time for the Hayden Christensen Sans to be here. In Star Wars. The fact that we're okay to have him back in Star Wars now is very, very, very nice. He's done nothing but give so much to it, and now he's finally getting that in return, and it's well overdue. Let me get through a couple of these before we kind of head out here. Jesse, yes, I am running solo. It's typically solo on the show, man. It's majority of the time it's just me talking whiskey. Today I've been talking Brothers Bond. Hello, Ray. Hi. Get off. And I've been talking some whiskey here. Brothers Bond, brand new bottle that I had tried for the very first time. Very nice notes to this one. And it comes from Paul Wesley and Ian Somerhalder, who were part of the Vampire Diaries for a very long time. If any of you know those characters. No, you don't get any of this. But yeah, Brothers Bond. I've been talking a little about that. I talked a lot about that in the middle of the show. Talked a little bit about the beginning of the show. I really enjoy this as she kind of gets into all my background. She just finished her bone, so I'm going to have to wrap up here very, very soon. Maddie here. Yeah, like crossing into physical plane. If someone's going to do it, it would make sense for it to be Anakin. I agree. 100% agree, especially with being Ahsoka. It makes the most sense. For the first time to ever see that, it would absolutely make sense with the ability he had as a Jedi. Jesse, give me a ghost fight. Ghost Anakin versus Ghost Vader. Battle of the Soul. That would be interesting. That would definitely be a lot of... I don't know how they would tell that, but that would definitely be interesting. Give me as Hayden as Fade Roth. Oh, Jesse, that's a good call. That's a really good call. I think they might cast a little older and maybe a little bit more intimidating, but that's not a bad idea. I like that. And Brandy, so question, what is Ahsoka from? Oh, Brandy, you're killing me. So she debuted in the Clone Wars movie, the so beloved Clone Wars movie, as Ahsoka way back then. Then she got a very, very bad rap at the very beginning as this character nobody wanted. And then she was in the Clone Wars series, which followed the events between episode 2 and 3. And she was arguably the main character of that series. It followed a lot of different things in the Clone Wars animation series. There's 7 seasons, but ultimately she is really the main character of that show. We see adventures of her, Anakin, Obi-Wan, the entire Jedi, and everything, all the characters from the prequel era. That's what that series is about. So she's from that. She was also in Star Wars Rebels. She was in season 2. She popped up at the very end of season 1. She was in season 2, and then she was at the very end of the series as the series wrapped up as well. So that was all of her animation time. And then she popped up for the very first time in live action in Mandalorian season 2 in the episode called The Jedi, which was chapter 13 of The Mandalorian, which made it like, what, was that episode 5 or 6 of season 2. And now she is officially getting her own Star Wars television show, which is live action, and Rosario Dawson will be playing her just as she did in The Mandalorian. We don't know what the show is going to be telling. Many believe it could be a Star Wars Rebels sequel series, but it could be something completely different that we don't know about. So stay tuned on that. There will be a lot more on this. I'm an Ahsoka fanboy, so we'll be talking about a lot on this one. But yeah, Brandy, really, if you just want a breakdown of the character, I'm happy to give you one. And if you want to watch Star Wars live action series of her, I'm happy to give you a full on breakdown of her character before that, because that's a lot of stuff to watch. And I know that animation is sometimes a little tough for some people, especially when there's 20 episodes a season and there's 7 seasons. I'm not going to put you through that, nor would I ever expect you to do that. So just know that she's one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars, and she had a long road to get there. But she's incredibly important to this universe because she also popped up as a voice at the end of The Rise of Skywalker for Rey. She was one of the voices at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. And that's also something to be told at some point as well. So she has a lot of history, but her history is not done at this moment. It's still being written, and it is next going to be written with her former master, Anakin Skywalker, played by Hayden Christensen. So cannot wait. Super, super pumped. I'm going to be staying so close to this news on anything I can find. I'll definitely be talking about it here with some more whiskey. Before we get out of here, because Ray's getting a little crazy. Let's see, Maddie here, you and me both, dude. Anyone who says the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin isn't emotional and awesome is straight up liar. Agreed. Thank you, Maddie. Actually, I tend to like a little bit more than the Duel of Fates, if you don't care about me being truthful here. I think it's better than Duel of Fates, personally. That fight is wild, and I cannot wait to see more of that in Obi-Wan and the Obi-Wan series. So I'm starting to geek out here. Anyway, let's see, Jesse, I just want Hayden Dune memes. Yeah, that's a good call. Good call. Brandy, never seen Clone Wars. That's fair. That's fair. Again, I don't expect you to watch Clone Wars. There's a lot of it. Movie or series, I've seen no Star Wars TV. Brandy, I would recommend us watching the live action stuff. Honestly, you can fill in the blanks with the animation stuff. There's a lot of it, but the blanks can be filled in if you're interested in the live action stuff. Especially when it comes to something like The Mandalorian. I've told people this before, but people who aren't a fan of Star Wars and maybe never seen it, The Mandalorian's a perfect place to start because you don't need any prior knowledge to stuff. Yes, there's characters that pop up, but those histories, those stories could be briefed and summarized very quickly for you on certain characters and moments that pop up. Maybe give it a try. Maybe. We'll see. But yes, I'm going to wrap it up, everybody, because I'm getting close here. I'm going to be jumping on POV here in just a little bit. Thank you, guys. This was a fun episode. This was a lot of fun. Again, Brothers Bond. Paul Wesley and Ian Somerhalder, who are part of the Vampire Diaries. This is their whiskey, their brand new whiskey, and it's very good. It is a little bit on the rye side, a little bit on the sweet side, and kind of has a smoky finish on things. I definitely recommend it, and I would definitely be drinking more of it. I cannot thank you guys enough for popping and hanging out with me, talking some whiskey, talking some Star Wars. I love this. I love doing this, just talking to myself as my dog chews a bone and try not to interrupt me. I see she knocked over a pop figure back there. But yeah, so I'm going to be jumping over to some certain point of view for a Schmodown reaction if you guys are interested. And that's on a certain point of view on YouTube, Schmodown POV on Twitter. Myself, I'm at Qui-Gon Jake, 2 N's. Someone else took it before I did. And I always like to say Liam Neeson took it before I did. I don't know if he's on Twitter, but so Qui-Gon Jake on Twitter. That's where you can find everything as far as me and all my shows and movie takes and everything. It's all there. Pictures of my dog, stuff like that. But yeah, so check that out. Also, Apocalypse Movies, which happens weekly. You guys want a movie conversation? Check that out there. We had a full Dune discussion this last Tuesday. It was a great time. And you guys should check that out. So again, thank you to everyone who's been joining me. I really appreciate it. Brandy, make sure you let me know what you think of it. Maddie, John, Jesse, RD, Gio, all of you guys, thank you so much for popping in. I really, really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.